Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me in the gun room for another gun room discussion. This time I want to talk about the Cheap Gun Mafia and the Cult of Colt. Okay, and you see how I got my Colt hat on. If you're not familiar with the channel, I got a lot of Colts. Right now I got, I don't know, over 10 and revolvers, rifles. Most of them are 1911s. But I got a lot of Colts. So I like Colt. But I am not a cultist when it comes to a certain brand. I'm not a drum beater for any brand. If they screw up, I'm gonna call them out. There are some brands whose QC is a little bit better or a lot better than others. And then there's some that's just dog shit. And unfortunately, Colt is one of those. And where I came up with, and you know, in my experience and by seeing some other stuff, Radical Firearms, Bear Creek Arsenal, there's some of these other ones that are, seems like their quality control is lacking. So what I came up with, the reason I'm making this video is because I want to explain what the Cheap Gun Mafia and the Cult of Colt is. And they're kind of broad terms because there's also the Cult of Staccato, and you could name them all. People are like, they're just fanboys, 100%. You could give them the biggest piece of dog shit Colt or Staccato or insert gun manufacturer here, whatever that is, and they gloss over. They won't pay attention and be objective about the gun. Cult of Glock. There's some people that are like, Glock, you know, every handgun should be a Glock and every Glock should be a 19 or some shit like that, some bull crap like that. Okay, that's cultist thinking. To think your brand and your mega corporation made gun is just some kind of super, you know, and they're infallible and they never make mistakes and all this kind of shit. It's bullshit. So I did a video on, and I'll put these down below if I remember. If not, you can find them. It's Radical Firearms and the Cheap Gun Mafia was one. That was my first introduction to a term I made up called the Cheap Gun Mafia. And there's other one, like I said, the Cult of Colt. And the Cheap Gun Mafia concept went over a lot of people's heads. And they fell right into the trap that I created for them. The reason I came up with this was I did a short on the Radical Firearms SOCOM MHR. I fired one round out of the gun and it failed to operate properly. So it failed to cycle and feed the next round. I didn't know what the problem with the gun was. It was brand new and all this other kind of stuff. And I just did the short. And I knew what was coming because these people in the Cheap Gun Mafia are so freaking butthurt when one of their cheap guns or their lower price budget guns fails. Okay, it's worse than these Gucci rifle guys. It's far worse. And so I came up with that name because there is a group of a loosely, you know, held group of professional shit posters online that come to YouTube and they just suck Radical Firearms ass, or they suck Colt's ass, or they suck insert brand right here. And the concept went completely over these guys' heads. So the Cheap Gun Mafia, okay, let me explain it so it's perfectly clear to people. The Cheap Gun Mafia is not, it's not, okay, people that just buy budget firearms. And I have a lot of budget firearms, okay? I like budget firearms. I love a good deal, all right? I just don't waste my money on stuff. I love a good deal. At the time of making this video, I think I have 7 or 8 PSA firearms, from AKs to ARs. I might have 4, I have to think about it. 7 or 8, maybe more, PSA. And PSA is considered budget, and a lot of people shit on PSA. Okay, so I have a Radical Firearms. I still have that Radical Firearms. Now after I fixed some stuff on it, it's fine, it's okay. It doesn't have a lot of rounds to it, but it's okay, it works. After we figured out what was going on with the whole thing, it works. I never said it was bad. I even say in the full review, it's not a dog shit rifle. But it came with a ridiculously loose hand, and it conveniently, the Cheap Gun Mafia just focuses on the reliability of the gun and the cheap mag, and I proved that the mag and the ammo is not the problem, because if you put it in better rifles, how can the mag and the ammo be the problem in the rifle when you take the exact same mag and the exact same ammo and put it in 3 separate rifles, higher end rifles, and they run flawlessly? So how can it be the ammo in the mag? But they like to make excuses. They completely ignore. Nobody ever mentions that the handguard was ridiculously loose. Okay, that the castle nut was not staked, and I had to stake it myself. Even PSAs come staked. I got a rifle in here. I'm gonna do a review on a PSA, PA-15, whatever. The one where you could buy, they were having a blowout. You could buy the upper and the lower, and I think all in it's like $329. The lower was $99. The upper was $229 or something. It's like $329, $328, whatever. Of course, before, you know, transfer fee and all that kind of stuff. And the castle nut was staked in 3 places, two or three places. I got it over here. Why can't you, that was my thing. Why can't Radical Firearms stake the castle nuts? Castle nut was unstaked. Charging handle was scratched and gouged all the hell like it had been dropped. The handguard was loose. And then there was the reliability issues, which, like I said, we worked out. But nobody will mention the other issues of the quality of the QC, the quality control of the rifle. They just want to talk about how I'm an asshole, or I'm an asshole for saying people who buy cheap guns. One jerk off recently was like, well, you're better than the Bentley gun mafia who waste money on their whole thing. And that's the thing that they talk about. They think you just waste money. That a $400 rifle is just as good. That's their mantra. Cheap Gun Mafia, just as good. A $400 rifle, Radical Firearms, Bear Creek Arsenal, PSA, whatever. And again, like I said, I own a lot of PSAs, 8, 9, 10, 7, 8, 9, between 7 and 10 at the current time of this filming, PSA products. And I think they're pretty good. I've had pretty good, there's been some issues, and we'll discuss that in other videos, but I think they're pretty good overall. And I think they're fully acceptable. And I don't shit on them, and I love a deal, and I love budget fire. And that's not even all my firearms, that's just PSA. I have a lot of budget firearms. If you guys are familiar with the channel, I have over 10 TSOS 1911s, which are budget. I love them. I got all kinds of budget. Taurus. I have all kinds of guns from all kinds of different brands for all kinds of different reasons. And I have a lot of high-end guns too. Okay, I'm fortunate enough to have built my collection over decades that now some of the guns that were purchased for cheap, like I have an Arsenal AK that was like 950 bucks, and now they go for over $3 grand because it's a Russian AK. All right, so there's certain things like that. But with the Cheap Gun Mafia, these people get butthurt. They think I'm comparing these high end and you're just shitting on low rifle. No, and it's not people who buy budget firearms, because I'm one of those people that buys budget friendly firearms. I love them. And they can absolutely be pressed into serious work, okay? I'm trying to get that through to some of these guys that are posting this shit on here. They get so butthurt because they're in the Cheap Gun Mafia and the Cult of Colt, or the Cult of Staccato, or the Cult of... Whenever you have that cultist thinking that, you know, that's when you get a problem right there, when you're not objectively looking at and you just suck a brand's ass for whatever. And again, Colt, I have it. But if you go back through my playlist or go back through all the videos I have of Colt, I give them a lot of shit because I expect better from them, because they're supposed to be an American-made brand, an iconic American-made brand, which has been through bankruptcy I don't know how many times, is currently owned by CZ, and everybody's hoping CZ makes them step up their quality control, because that's the biggest problem with Colt. It's not their materials used on some. I mean, they're doing some cast parts and some plastic stuff and one magazine and all this kind of crap that I have a problem with. But it's also their QC on the way out the door. They're sending out scratched guns, which you want to shit on PSA all day long, okay? But they at least sell it. Oh, this is a blem sale, and they knock 50 bucks off, or 100 bucks, or whatever it is they knock off. And a lot of times people get the gun and they go, I can't find the blem. When I pick up a Colt, I can easily find the blem, the scratches, the voids in the cast parts, the dings, the dents, so that's fair to call these companies out. It's fair. But for you to get butthurt and then live in some type of la-la land, that's who the Cheap Gun Mafia is. Guys, if you're watching this and you can only afford a PSA, I get it. Buy the PSA. Buy the Radical. Replace parts as you can. Do a little bit of a work yourself. You know, keep your fingers crossed that the QC is good. And then roll with it. That's not you. You are not part of the Cheap Gun Mafia. But if you come in here, in my videos or in other people's videos of these lower price, budget friendly, and there's a place for everybody in the 2A, all the way down to High Point. You want to buy a high point, buy a high point. They seem to generally work. They're big chunks of junk, in my opinion, but their mission, their use is to send pieces of hot metal flying through the air to impact on targets downrange, and whatever that may be. They work because they seem to be pretty reliable and accurate enough, and that's all you need. Buy it. If you buy that, you're not part of the Cheap Gun Mafia. But if you come into my video, if I do a high point video and I say, this is pop metal and all this other stuff, however, it has been fairly reliable and it is accurate, and I give it a fair and balanced assessment, and you come in and you're like, your Wilson Combat and and you start screaming about how Glocks it's just as good as your Glock. It's your Glock Forte. It's just as good as a Wilson Combat. Well, that's horseshit. Anybody with half a fucking brain is not going to say, my hot point's just as good as a Wilson, and believe it. You gotta be insane to say that type of stuff. But you'll come into my YouTube, and I've seen it on other YouTubers, and they give them in other gun channels in the comments, and they give them shit, and you just, ain't no rifle over $500. If you can only afford budget firearms, and you recognize that they are budget firearms, and you get some that work, and again, like I said, I own a lot of budget firearms. I don't like to waste my money, okay? I don't know anybody that likes to waste their money. But for me to do a review of a Radical Firearms, and I have some issues with it, again, in my particular case, loose hand guards, unstaked castle nut, big ass scratch and gouge on the charging handle, and then reliability issues. And for you to come in and go, it's just as good as your Daniel Defense, you just wasted a bunch of money. That's Cheap Gun Mafia right there. That's, excuse me. That's Cheap Gun Mafia right there. Cheap Gun Mafia is some of the stuff that the comments I posted in the Radical Firearms and Cheap Gun Mafia video. I put 1,000 rounds a week through mine, and it's the best AR I ever had. What have you had? Have you had a LWRC? Have you had a POF? Have you had a Colt? Any of you? What frame of reference does some of these people have by saying this? If the only firearm you've ever, or only AR-15 in this case, you ever owned was a Radical Firearms, you've never owned a Colt. And now, side note here. Every single brand, just like every single brand of car manufacturer, every single brand of boat manufacturer, every single brand of whatever insert widget name right here manufacturer has quality control issues. Every one. But the build quality, the QC, the quality of the parts, all kinds of stuff are different. You're not, every AR-15, we're talking about AR-15 right now, are not Radical Firearms or Bear Creek Arsenal or Palmetto State Armory Firearms and the quality, and then they're just charging $1,500 more to screw you. That's not how it works. That's not, dang, where's my drink? That's not how it works, okay? But I will say that every manufacturer has and have had quality control issues. But if your only frame of reference is a Palmetto State Armory, a Bear Creek Arsenal, a Radical Firearms, some of the lower end budget rifles, and you've never owned / fired a LWRC, a POF, a whatever, a Geisley, a Daniel Defense, any of these higher end rifles, how do you have the frame of reference to even say? You never experienced this over here. That's one of the things that kills me. You've never experienced shooting, or even a Colt or something like that. You've never experienced this side of it. You're only going off your experience here in the budget realm. So what frame of reference do you have to even speak on the higher end rifles and whether they're worth it or not? And now I will say, prices are inflated on a lot of stuff. Okay, but and I even said in the video, I'm not even focusing on Radical Firearms. That just happened to be the one budget rifle that I was doing it on, that I had. That was a super deal. I said I saw it for $399. I said, holy crap, an AR-15 with all that it came with, the rails, the good furniture, and I like the furniture on the rifle. For $399, what am I going to get? I was curious, and I had some disposable income, so I was curious. Curiosity got me. I'm like, what am I going to get for $399? Let me see. And I bought it. And I said, I think it's worth $399 because of the work I had to do to it and because of the issues and all that other kind of stuff. Radical Firearms was kind of an umbrella term for, when I was using it in that video, for budget-friendly ARs. But it was more focused on the Cheap Gun Mafia. And it got its desired effect because people came in there screeching about how dare I compare these rifles. I didn't compare them. I just took the mag and the ammo. And everybody, that's another thing with the ammo. Keep getting sidetracked here, but with the ammo. Tula steel case, Russian 223 is shit ammo. It's not the best ammo. I bought that stuff years ago when Walmart still sold it. When you used to be able to get that stuff by the case for like, I used to be able to get a case of that stuff for 1,000 rounds for like 180 bucks. So if you're going out there blasting and you don't mind doing some malfunction training sometimes, and it's really dirty and it can be underpowered and all the complaints about it are valid. It was super cheap. So it kept me shooting a lot. But my opinion is, if a rifle can shoot the shittiest factory-made ammo out there, it won't have any problems with the brass and the good stuff. And that's been my experience. If your rifle, as shitty as the Tula is, if your rifle can eat that stuff up, then you'll have no problems with the good stuff. So that's kind of one of the tests I used to do. If it can use this crappy ammo and have no problems with it, you won't have any problems with the good stuff in the brass. And that's been my experience. So that's one of the reasons they're like, why are you shooting the shitty ammo? Well, your shitty ammo thing, yeah, it is. I agree with you. But you see, it worked out of all 3 of the other guns with no problems. So that's why when people sit here and they defend their rifle and I get it. Some people, all they had was $400. They needed an AR-15, and I'm all about that space. I don't hate gun companies. I don't want Radical Firearms to go out of business. I don't want Bear Creek Arsenal to go out of business. I don't want PSA to go out of business. I don't want Colt to go out of business. I want everybody to get all the guns they need and ammo they need. I think it's their right. But don't sit there and live in La La Land and screech about how your Radical Firearms is just as good as an FN or this or whatever it is. It might be. In reliability and accuracy terms, it might be. How's the longevity? We don't know. After a lot of the complaints of the PSA and some of the other budget rifles is they have a limited life, far less than the higher end ones. And you won't see that manifest until you get into the multiple thousands of rounds, and then you start having bolts break and you have all this other kind of stuff. So that's what the Cheap Gun Mafia and the Cult of Colt. It's these people that are cultists. Talk about Colt. You'll get it, I'm getting all flustered now. So that's what the Cheap Gun Mafia. It is not if you buy budget firearms and you enjoy shooting your budget firearms and you get more out of your money. I'm 100% about that. I love that. I, again, have a ton of budget-friendly options, and I think they're great. A lot of them are great. But don't sit there and screech and say you put thousands around and it's the greatest rifle you ever bought and you yada, yada, yada. That's the Cheap Gun Mafia. The Cheap Gun Mafia are the people that with that attitude, not the people that buy budget firearms and they have them in their collection and they enjoy them and they shoot them. That's perfectly fine. But if you come in there screeching about how it's the greatest thing ever made and you're just bandwagoning all this crap, that's them. But you get the same thing with the Cult of Colt. And that's why I call them the Cult of Colt, because you get people that Colt is the greatest thing ever. You got to get you a Colt, and the Colt is the Colt. 100% Colt. I'm only Colt. And I think I own more Colt 19. I might own more TSOS 1911s, but at the time of making this video, it's over 10 Colt 1911s. So I like Colt, and I'm not doing that to brag or anything else. I'm saying I like Colt. And I've been blessed enough to be able to afford that stuff. I like Colt. But I also pay attention to exactly what Colt does. And Colt lets a lot of stuff out their doors that shouldn't go out their doors, with scratches, blims, machining marks, all kinds of issues like that. It shouldn't go out the door. Other manufacturers would not let them leave. But the Cult of Colt, they're just easily led automatons, okay? And they're like, yeah, Colt. So they'll overlook a bunch of fitment issues, a bunch of machining issues, a bunch of finish issues, a bunch of material, build quality material issues and stuff like that. They'll just overlook it, because I think a lot of them have no frame of reference. Like if you want to look at a $2,000 Colt, okay? And I will probably do this video, a $2,000 Colt, when all was said and done, I think it was around $2,200 out the door. Colt, Gold Cup trophy in 38 Super, and a Dan Wesson 1911, the heirloom in 38 Super, roughly the same price. It's night and day. Night and day. So you get more value out of your money for the Dan Wesson than you do for the Colt, just on build quality. And the reliability and the accuracy is the same. So that's what I'm trying to say. But people be like, Colt. Even though any objective person with knowledge of a 1911 would look at the Dan Wesson heirloom and go, whoa, this is far and away better gun. For almost the same price, maybe a little bit more. So that's to circle back to what I was trying to explain in the beginning. Hopefully I explained it. I know I rambled a lot. But the Cheap Gun Mafia is not if you buy budget firearms. Do not get butthurt. It has nothing to do with money and the money you spend on your guns. And if you buy budget guns, again, I have the majority of my collection is budget friendly firearms. It's the ones that live in a delusional world and just get butthurt anytime you say, and it's so much worse with budget friendly firearms than it is the higher end guys. I don't understand that. It's the people that live in la la land get butthurt, and they come into your comment section and they talk shit about how their Radical Firearms is the greatest AR-15 there is. I doubt Radical Firearms would say they make the greatest AR-15 there is, and their price reflects that. They probably say, just like PSA, they say we don't make the best AR-15 out there. We make the best AR-15 out there that people can afford for the budget. You want to go nuts on an AR-15, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, you can. And then there's also the law of diminishing returns. Like, how much are you getting? Are you, for your $329 PSA AR-15 and your $2,000 Daniel Defense, is there are you getting $1,600 more rifle? That's up to you, and that's debatable. I don't know. But that's what it is. Cheap Gun Mafia is a cult, just like the cult of Staccato, the Cult of Colt. That's what it is. It has to do with the people and their attitudes, not so much the rifles or the handguns. It's kind of an umbrella term. That's the way I was trying to explain it to people. It doesn't have so much to do with the exact manufacturer as it has to do with the people that lose their mind if you objectively review a budget firearm and it has issues. It's almost like they celebrate other people. If you have issues with a high-end $3,000 Les Bear 1911, you have an issue like, you wasted your money. I bought my arms cord, I never had one problem. Shoot 1 inch all day long. 1 inch all day. I've never had a problem with my $400 arms core. You idiot, you wasted money for $3,000 on your Les Bear. Those people. But you don't hear the Les Bear people go, you should have bought, maybe sometimes, you should have bought a better gun than a Rock Island. And anybody that thinks a Rock Island Armory 1911 is anywhere close to a Les Bear is delusional. You're just delusional, and you have no frame of reference when it comes to that type of stuff. Is a Rock Island Armory 1911 a viable handgun? Absolutely. I own 2. Maybe 3. No, 2. 2. So they are. They are absolutely viable, but they are nowhere near the quality of a Les Bear, and the price reflects that. But the delusional people in the Cult of Colt and the Cheap Gun Mafia will be like, I got me, man, you spend way too much money on that, son. Mine totally 100% reliable. My Rock Island. Okay. Bullshit, but okay. You know, so that's what it is, guys. It's the mental gymnastics that some folks play when they buy a budget firearm and then run out there and screech that it's the greatest thing ever and you wasted your money on a higher end gun, which anybody in the space knows that usually when you buy, now they might be tiny little things that are better, but usually when you spend more money, you do get a better product depending on what its use is for. So there it is, guys. Let me know what you think. Have you encountered these folks that are in the Cheap Gun Mafia or the Cult of Colt or the Cult of Staccato? You know, have you had any run-ins with them? We get it a lot on YouTube, especially in the gun tuber verse space, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, let me know in the description below. Thanks for watching, guys. We will see you next time.